Hi, this is Dr. John Bergduff. This is going to be a beginning video on how to convert units of measurement. And we'll be focusing on in this video on converting from one English unit of measurement to another, or from English to metric, or metric to English. In a future video, we'll talk about converting within the metric system as a special case. Let's just jump right into an example. The example that I want to do is how many yards are in 5 miles. So that is a conversion between two units of measurement within the English system. In order to do a conversion of units, what you need to have is a small table somewhere of conversion facts that have to do with length. And so I found some and wrote them down right here. 1 foot is 12 inches, 1 yard is 3 feet, 1 mile is 5,280 feet. Now there are many different ways to look at and approach the process of converting units. What I'm going to show you is the method that works best for me. You might find a method that does more or less the same thing or is radically different. So please understand this is not the only way to do things. The way I look at things is I look at the unit that I'm starting with, which is miles, and I ask myself if I can see within my conversion formulas a chain of units that would get me from the units that I'm given to the units that I want. So what I mean by that is this. As I look at my formulas, I see something that relates miles to feet. That doesn't get me to yards. But then I also see a different unit that gets me from feet to yards. So the chain of units that I'm thinking of is to go from miles to feet, and then feet to yards. And on my chain, although in this case they're sitting right in front of us, in other cases it may not be quite so clearly at hand, I'm going to write in on my little arrows the conversion facts that involve these different pieces of the chain. I see that 1 mile, and I'm going to abbreviate mile as MI, is equal to 5,280 feet. And I also see that 1 yard, and I'm going to abbreviate yard as YD, equals 3 feet. Feet is FT. Now, when you have that chain that leads from the units you're given to the units you want to arrive at, what you then do is you start with the unit that you're given and you multiply that unit by fractions that are equal to 1 that use the formulas as you look at the chain. And you want to do this in a way that as you multiply, the old units divide out and the new units take their place. Now, if you're writing along with me, don't write down what I'm about to say because I'm going to end up erasing it. You can create a fraction that's equal to 1 if you put an equal quantity in the numerator and the denominator. For example, right here, 1 mile and 5,280 feet are equal quantities. So if I were to create the fraction 1 mile over 5,280 feet and multiply it by the 5 miles, I am really just multiplying by 1. Now I'd like to say that that particular fraction doesn't do me any good, because with miles in both the numerator and in both the original statement and in the numerator, miles are not dividing out. But for any one of these facts, you can create two fractions. In this case, you could put miles over feet or feet over miles. If instead of putting miles over feet, I put feet over miles, 5,280 feet over miles, 1 mile. Notice that if I did that, the unit of miles would divide out. And what that essentially does is moves me along the chain from miles to feet, converting from miles to feet. I'm actually going to do the mathematics all at one time. I'm just going to construct these fractions as I go. Same thing going from feet to yards. I can create one of two fractions. I can create yards over feet or feet over yards. Either one would equal 1, but I choose the one that will make the old units divide out and have the new units take their place. Let's write them both down and take a look. I could do this. I could multiply by 3 feet over 1 yard. Because I've got the same quantity in the numerator and the denominator, I'm just multiplying by 1, but it doesn't make the units of feet divide out. That's not the one I want. But instead of putting the feet in the numerator, I could put the feet in the denominator and use this fraction, 1 yard divided by 3 feet, and that's what I would want, because the feet in this numerator would divide the feet in that denominator. And if you look at just the units, you're going to end up with a unit in yards. And that gets us the rest of the way down our chain to where we want to go. The rest is mathematics, is calculation, arithmetic. And if I look at that, if I'm multiplying by a fraction that has a quantity in the numerator that's not 1, I can do that just by multiplying. If the quantity that's not 1 is in the denominator, I can get that by dividing. So the actual calculation I will do on a calculator would be 5 times 5,280 divided by 3. If the quantity other than 1 is in the numerator, you multiply. If it's in the denominator, you divide. You do that calculation and just get a calculator out and do that, and you will come up with 8,800. And looking again at the units, all the units divided out, but left me with an answer in yards. The answer is that 5 miles is 8,800 yards. Let's try another one. In this one, we're going to bring in the metric system as well. So we're going to be looking at metric and English. And this one will involve volume. So again, what you would have somewhere is a big old chart that has all kinds of conversion facts that involve volume. And here's a bunch of them. And I want to ask the question, how many ounces of soda are in a 2-liter bottle? So again, we're looking for a chain. We are starting with liters, and I want to convert eventually to ounces. And it's all here, but you got to be kind of careful. It looks to me like we could use this formula and convert liters to gallons, and then convert gallons to quarts, quarts to pints. This is going to be one long chain. Pints to cups. And finally, cups to ounces. So the facts that we're using are that 1 gallon, G-A-L, equals 3.7854 liters. L for liters, and I'm going to make that cursive just so it doesn't look like the number 1. 1 gallon, G-A-L, equals 4 quarts, Q-T. I'm writing the conversion formulas under the arrows so I can see how the chain is going to work. 1 quart equals 2 pints. Pints is usually PT. And then converting from pints to cups, 1 pint equals 2 cups. Not really aware of a good abbreviation for cups that people use. And then finally, 1 cup equals 8 ounces, and ounces is usually abbreviated OZ. Now, in our case, the fact that these conversion formulas were right up here kind of made the writing in of the formulas into my arrows maybe a little bit more than necessary, but generally this would be off on a separate piece of paper, and having this right in front of you is really helpful. Because what you're going to do now is you're going to start with the unit you begin with, 2 liters. For each chain, for each step of the chain, and for each formula, I'm going to create a fraction that's equal to 1 by putting one quantity over the other, but choosing to do it in a way that units will cancel out, divide out. So if I look at this formula, I could either put 1 gallon over 3.7854 liters, or I can put 3.7854 liters over 1 gallon. The key is that I want the liters to divide out and the gallons to take their place. That would happen if I put the liters in the denominator and the gallon in the top. 1 gallon over 3.7854 liters. That would get me, and you can see, liters divides liters. That gets me down the first step of my chain. From gallons to quarts, I would like the gallons to divide out. That's the old unit you're trying to get rid of, and the quarts to come in. So that would make sense to put the 4 quarts in the numerator, the 1 gallon in the denominator, see how the gallons would divide out, and that would get me one more step down the chain. And now I'm in quarts. Now I need to go from quarts to pints. I'm going to use this fact. Again, I've got to create a fraction. If I put the quarts in the denominator and the 2 pints in the numerator, quarts will divide out. Notice I use QTS for quarts and then QT for quart. I'm not totally consistent, but hey, whatever. This will get me one more step to pints. Then I go to cups. Again, I want the pints to divide out. So I'll put 2 cups in the numerator and 1 pint in the denominator. The pints divide out, so you see you get one more step down the chain. This is a long chain. And finally, we're almost to ounces. We put 8 ounces over 1 cup, because I'd like the cups to divide out. 8 ounces over 1 cup. And notice that the cups will divide out. And by multiplying by these fractions equal to 1, by taking the conversion formulas and either putting one quantity on the top or the other, watching so that the old units divide out and the new units take their place, we get all the way down this huge long chain, and you can see right here that our final answer will be in ounces. The operation we would do on the calculator is we'd be starting with the 2. Because the 3.7854 is in the denominator, we would divide by that, divide by 3.7854. The 4 is in the numerator, so multiply by 4, multiply by 2, also in the numerator, multiply by 2, add, look at that. Let me get rid of that. We're multiplying by 2, and multiplying by 8. The answer will be in ounces, and you get your calculator out and punch buttons, punch, punch, punch. Rounded to do 2 decimal places, that's going to give me 67.63 ounces. All right, let's do one more. This one involves weight, and I do have in the middle of this one metric to metric conversion formula. Again, we're going to look at metric to metric more later, but I needed this particular one to get the chain all the way where I need it. A bag of kitty litter weighs 20 kilograms. How many pounds is that? So I'm starting this time in kilograms, and I need to get that converted to pounds. This formula would not do it all by itself. It converts pounds to grams. We got to get from kilograms to grams. So I'll use the second formula to get me from kilograms to grams. Kilograms usually abbreviated kg, and if my horrible handwriting is hard to read there, that's kg. G is grams, and then grams to pounds. The usual abbreviation for pounds is LB. Let's write the facts underneath here. 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. And 1 pound equals 453.59 grams. So the formulas are written just exactly the way they come out of the whatever chart you've got. We're starting with 20 kilograms. We want to multiply by a fraction that's equal to 1. Using this fact on the first step of my chain, I need the kilograms to divide out. Those are the old units I want to get rid of, and the grams to take their place. That would happen if I put 1,000 grams on the top and 1 kilogram on the bottom. And notice that that would do it. The kilograms would divide out. And then for the final step, I need the grams to divide out. So let's put 1 pound in the numerator and 453.59 grams in the denominator. So I can see the grams dividing out and leaving me with pounds. The calculation, 20 multiply by 1,000 because the 1,000's in the numerator, divide by 453.59 because that number is in the denominator. And again, you punch the buttons and you will get 44.09. I rounded that to 2 decimal places, and the answer, the unit on the answer will be pounds, 44.09 pounds. So those are a few nice examples, I hope, that will help you see kind of the general idea of converting units. Again, we've been focusing on English to English or English to metric, metric to English. Thank you very much.